I got scammed here in Germany by scammers stealing money in the name of Europol. This happened on 17th June 2022. So today marks the 3-month anniversary of the incident. Since then, I've had painful nights, nights where I feel really angry with the scammer, but also really angry with myself. I feel pressure, not just financial, but also emotional. I feel betrayed. I feel like my trust has been abused. And most of all, I also feel anxious because I'm still at a risk of losing money. Hi, my name is Josma Rodriguez, and if you're new to this channel here, I usually upload spiritual music here so that the heart can find a place where it encounters the love of God. But today's video is going to be a little different. It's not going to be about a song. It's going to be about an incident that happened to me a few months ago. So back to my scamming story. 17th of June, 10 a.m., a typical Friday morning. I receive a call from a normal German number. I answered the phone and there was a lady on the other end of the line with what I perceived to be a German accent. She sounded quite serious. And she said, "Good morning, ma'am. This is from the German police in Berlin. We have found your identity details in an abandoned car in Berlin with 22 kilos of cocaine as well. Moreover, there was money laundering that was supposedly happening under my name, with money as high as $250,000 being transferred as drug trafficking money to Colombia and Mexico through a bank in Thailand. And so she wanted me to confirm my name and the last 4 numbers of my identity card." Now, when I heard this, my heart skipped a beat because no one's really supposed to have my identity number. It's called the Aufenthaltstitel in German. It's very, very private. And so when she said it was found in some random car in Berlin, I believed her. I mean, I've been here in Germany for about 7 years, but I had no idea how legal proceedings such as this were carried out. I had no reference, and hence I believed her. So I wanted to cooperate with her. I gave her my name, my details. She asked me about my whereabouts, who I've been hanging out with, when was the last time I visited Berlin, and if I could think of anyone in my friend circle that could have probably had my identity details. So this interrogation happened for about 15 minutes, at the end of which she decided, "Well, ma'am, you seem to be innocent. It looks like this is a case of identity theft. Don't worry, this happens often, but we need to deal with this, so I'm going to forward you to Europol." After waiting for a few seconds, there was a man on the other end of the line that took the call and said he was a certain Franklin, an investigative officer from Europol. The same questions followed. He asked me about my whereabouts, my details, what I do, and so on and so forth. And this new interrogation happened for a good 30 minutes. He said the language of conversation had to be English because this had to do with an international crime and German wouldn't work. Now, a German national would at this point find that as a red flag because usually when a German official calls, they don't really speak in English. They use German as the language. We continued the conversation, and from what started as general details went into financial details. Franklin asked me if I have bank accounts in my name and to mention how many bank accounts I had. And he started using a rather authoritative tone. So the scammer told me that I was now stuck in a criminal situation and that there would be potential charges against me, and that he believed that I was innocent, but I had to cooperate and not resist. In this way, the German government could proceed with the case as well as remove my name from this criminal situation. And thus began a 7-hour-long call. Franklin said that the government was tracking me. He needed me to download a remote viewing app called AnyDesk so that he would have access to my phone screen to better instruct me into what I should do. And after I downloaded the app, I was asked to log into Wise. This is a multi-currency account. The scammer told me that there was an account under my name, Josma Henna Rodriguez, that was already opened in a Thai bank by the name of Bangkok Public Bank. And I was supposed to transfer the money from my account to this bank account so that the bank manager of the Thai bank could understand that this was the legitimate Josma Rodriguez doing the transfer. He told me that the bank manager had to see this so that he could differentiate between the legitimate Josma Rodriguez and the fake Josma Rodriguez, under whose name the drug trafficking was happening. And he said that if I didn't do this, the German police would freeze my account and confiscate all the money that I had, because they would assume that I automatically was responsible for the drug trafficking that was happening under my name. And I had about a day's time to really transfer the money and thus save the money, so to speak. And then the transfers began one by one. I authorized the transfers under the promptings of the scammer, Franklin. I transferred good 3,000 euros, I think. Then there was not really much left in my bank account. That's when Franklin asked me to go physically to the bank that I was registered with, Deutsche Bank, and to talk to one of the bank employees and tell them that I really needed to increase my transfer limit because there was a medical emergency. He said he would be on the line. He asked me not to cut the call. He asked me not to talk about this with one of the bank employees because if this was about identity theft, there would have been a high probability that the bank employees had taken my data, and so I couldn't really trust anyone. He said. I did that. I went to the bank. I told the same to the employees, and frustratingly for me then, but fortunately for me now, they said that they couldn't increase my bank limit immediately. So I came back from the bank and he asked me to continue with the transactions. Because the transfer limit was not increased, he asked me to type small numbers as transactions again, and a total of 2,500 was authorized for transfer after my visit to the bank. Now, because there was no money in my bank account left anymore, he asked me to click the overdraft facility option, and he said all of that would be refunded to me by the German government, but it was important that I did the transfer so that the Thai bank manager would have as many transactions from me as possible in order for him to understand that really this was a legitimate Josma Rodriguez. After all the possible transactions were done, he asked me to go to some of the local stores in my area and to attempt to buy gift cards through my credit card and somehow transfer the money in the gift card to him. Luckily for me, that day my credit card wasn't working. I think it was a security mechanism of the credit card. He asked me to try at different local stores, but that wasn't successful. I came back to my room and it was about evening time. So I was on the call with the scammer from 10 a.m. in the morning to 5 p.m. in the evening. And during the course of the day, about 4,800 euros were transferred. These were transactions that I authorized under his prompting. And the payments were done basically through Wise, but also using other services such as Sofort Payment, PayPal, credit cards, Apple Pay, and also a simple bank transfer. Before keeping the call, the scammer even said, ma'am, now that your account has been made to zero, how are you going to manage for the weekend? Because this was a Friday. And he said he would call me back on Monday. So between Friday and Monday, I had no money in my bank account. And he said, ma'am, I'm really sorry for the inconvenience, and I hope you can find some way out before you get the money back on Monday. And he even ended the call with, God bless you, ma'am. Please take care. Make sure that you tell no one about this, because if this is an identity theft and you tell your friend circle, it could be that someone from your friend circle or from your surrounding who's actually stolen your identity could try and escape, and you would have to be involved in this case for a longer time. So that would have backfired on me. I was also informed not to tell my family about this because of similar reasons. I mean, my parents would be worried, and then they would tell person number 2, person number 3, and person number 4. And this person number 4 could have been responsible for the identity theft. An interesting point was the scammer, just before keeping the call, he used a sentence that had the word probably in it, and he pronounced it as probably. Now that was a signal for me as to understand where he came from. I'm Indian. I understand an Indian accent. It made me wonder if Europol has Indian employees. That evening was a really difficult one. I didn't know what to feel. Should I have felt worry because now I was in some criminal investigative case, or should I have felt thankful because now the German police was trying to help me? You see, I still believed it. But something didn't sit right with me even on the next day, and even though the police officer had ordered me not to speak about it with anyone, I called a really good friend of mine. He's German, and when speaking to him, he told me, Jasma, this is a scam. That's when I realized, wow. And I was still trying to convince him, no, but wait, this was quite serious. I mean, they really investigated me before trying to get a hold of my money and blah, blah, blah. Well, he said, keep the phone, go to the police station. That's when it really hit me finally, I guess. I ran to the police station. I filed a complaint. I tried to get in touch with my bank. I called my credit card company. I called PayPal. I tried to get in touch with Wise. I tried to get in touch with the Thai bank, Bangkok Public. Nothing really helped. My bank blocked future transactions. I also tried to get a lawyer so that in case there were future handlings, there would be someone to represent me legally. And this was bad enough, but the story doesn't end there. A small recap again. About 3,000 euros were booked off from my account on the same day. There was a remaining 2,500 euros that I had transferred from Wise, but that was not taken from my bank account, either because my bank didn't have the money anymore for Wise to take it from, or because my bank blocked all future transactions in order to secure my account. Now the situation is such that Wise carried out the transactions on the same day that I authorized the transactions under the promptings of the scammer. So that was a total of 4,800. 3,000 plus 2,800. They just received 3,000 from me, which means they're now asking me to pay them the rest of the money. I told Wise that I had been scammed. I showed them the police complaint, and there is one team of Wise that understands this is a scam event, and they said they would get back to me, but there is another team of Wise that is demanding the money from me. So it's quite interesting to see how this case will proceed now. This email I received yesterday, and it was quite scary because after losing so much money and after having gone through so many painful and sleepless nights, to have to go through the same anxiety again, that there is a possibility of having to pay more money, is really difficult. I'm in touch with my lawyer, and we're going to get in touch with Wise, and we're going to see what solution we're going to be able to figure out together. But I realized that this was all so much for me that I felt the need to talk about it on social media. So far, it was just close friends and family that knew about this, and there was a part of me that didn't want to speak about it because it hurt so much, but also because there is a certain judgment associated with it. The natural question one would ask me is, what were you thinking, Jasma? Why didn't you realize over the course of the call that it was a fake one? Why didn't you call someone immediately if you had such doubts? Well, I could ask a million questions to myself as well, but the one thing that I know is I don't know what was happening to me that day, but it was like I was under a trance. I was scared, I was terrified, I was at a vulnerable place. In this year, I received many dramatic news, a lot of dramatic news. My father had an accident in the beginning of the year, after which he was paralyzed for the first few months. That was difficult. And then a close friend of mine passed away from a heart attack. That was difficult. And then my auntie passed away from a sudden heart attack at a very young age. That was difficult. And all of these were very dramatic messages, and they were all true. when someone called me and told me, now you are part of some criminal case, it was dramatic, but I thought it could be true. I've learned my lesson. I've learned to be more skeptical about such calls, but I hope that this video can also inform you as a person that could receive this call. I want to send a message to the German police to tell them, take international students seriously when we have issues. And to the Indian police, because I feel like the scam was carried out by scammers from an Indian scamming center. Dear Indian police, take this seriously, because our country is so much more than just a collection of scam centers, and it's going to do no one good in the long run if we have these scammers allowed to do whatever they want and allowed to exploit and rob whoever they want. I think that's my message with this whole scamming story. I do know that the love of God accompanies me, and that's the only thing that keeps me going during some days, because this incident has really got me bankrupt. But I hope and believe that I will see better days. Bye.